Good morning. I hope you're having a beautiful and bright day. Today, I'd like to talk to you just a moment about choices. We all have choices to make. As we're growing up, we have choices of what career field we want to go into, or we have choices of what we want to do with our life. You know, there's a spot in the Bible that a story that I love very, very much. I've preached on it many of times before, but as I continue to read every time over this story, God continues to reveal things over and over to me. This is a story about choices. It's found in the book of Matthew in chapter 14. We know it as Jesus walking on the water, but I love the way that it starts out in verse 22. It says, immediately he made the disciples to get in the boat and go ahead of him to the other side while he sent the crowd away. Now, Jesus had just got through feeding the crowd. There was a multitude around, and I can only imagine that as they were sitting there by the sea, Jesus was telling the disciples, why don't y'all get in the boat, go ahead. I'm going to send everybody else away, and I'll catch up with y'all on the other side later on. And it says that Jesus made his disciples get in the boat. They didn't want to. They wanted to help Jesus uh, to disperse the crowd. They wanted to help Jesus get everybody away. But it says Jesus made them get into the boat. Well, they really didn't have a choice. They got in the boat and they got on the other side. In verse 23, it says, and after he had sent the crowd away, he went up on the mountain by himself and prayed. And when it was evening, he was there alone. And the boat was already a long distance from the land, battered by the waves, and the winds was contrary. And in the fourth watch of the night, he came to them walking on the sea. And when his disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified and said, it's a ghost. And they cried out with fear. And immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, take courage, it is I, do not be afraid. Peter said to him, Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water. And he said, come. And Peter got out of the boat and he walked on water and he came towards Jesus. Now, I'm just going to stop right there. We know most of the rest of the story. His eyes was fixed upon Jesus, and as he was looking towards Jesus, the winds were still bellowing around him, and he began to sink. His eyes got off of Jesus. He cried out. Jesus immediately grabbed him, picked him up, carried him back to the boat, and after they got in the boat, the winds and all ceased. But I wanted to stop just for a minute and go back to the point of where it says that Peter called out to him, Jesus, if it's you, bid me to come. And Jesus says, come on. And it says right there that Peter got out of the boat. He had a choice. In the midst of the storm, as the waters were bellowing over around the boat, as the wind was blowing, as it was being tossed back and forth, they saw something in the water. Remember, it was dark, it was stormy, you couldn't see anything. They didn't have the electricity and the lights like we have today. All they saw was when the lightning flashed in the sky, that it lit up that somebody was walking on the water. They were scared. And they told each other that maybe it was a ghost. But I can only imagine as Peter got ready to get out of the boat, all the other disciples around him. Don't get out of the boat. You can't do that. You're going to drown. Nobody's ever walked on water. We're going to lose you. You'll never be found again. I can only imagine the conversation that they were hollering to him. Peter had a choice. Peter got out of the boat, and Peter walked towards Jesus. Wow. You know, today's society, today's times, and the storm that's roaring around us, the winds that are bellowing against us on all the sides, and this coronavirus that's coming, that is here. the coronavirus that we're all scared of and terrified of, and we're under quarantine of, and the winds are blowing. We're not sure. The numbers are rising and what's going on. Jesus says, "Oh, get out of the boat." Somebody said one time that just shortly that I sure will be glad when things get back to normal. My answer was, I hope things never get back to normal. I hope that it comes back bigger, brighter. The church grows, that your faith grows. When Jesus calls you to get out of the boat, come to Him. That we don't stop and read the books of 10 steps of getting out of the boat. How do we get out of the boat? What do we need to do to prepare to get out of the boat? All those different things that society has to offer. But when Jesus says, come, we simply get out of the boat and come to Him. What is Jesus calling you to do today? I hope that He's calling you to come and you get out of the boat and you come to Him. I sure will be glad when things get back to the point that we can come together, that we can worship, that we can sing praises together, that we can lift our voices together. But until that time, the Lord tells us to sing and make a melody in our heart, to lift a joyful noise unto Him. We can worship and praise Him. And I hope that we do. But be ready always to get out of the boat. Have a blessed day.